another atmospheric river for the Pacific Northwest, and much higher than average temperatures for the Eastern Rockies and the Southwest. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Putes, December 15, 2025. So continuing yesterday's forecast from the Northwest Washington area to Northern California, you guys have been seeing a lot of moderate to heavy rain from last night and throughout this morning. And unfortunately, this is going to last until about 5 p.m. Pacific time, but even so, around this time frame, some areas locally may still see some heavy precipitation, especially from Northwest Washington and a little bit of Northern California. Now, a lot of these areas have already been seeing a lot of precipitation from last week's atmospheric river, places like Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. So the ground is already saturated. So with today's precipitation, landslides and mudslides are going to be a concern. And of course, any rivers or urban areas are still dealing with the remnants of that rain are going to have a risk for flash flooding. And the Weather Prediction Center did issue a marginal risk for at least the next 4 or 5 days, and some areas have a slight risk for flash flooding. And again, overnight, Northwest Washington, things are going to pick up around 12 to 1 a.m. Pacific time. Similar story for Northern California, around overnight, 5 a.m. Pacific time, you're going to see some precipitation start increasing. And by like Tuesday afternoon, the entirety of the Pacific Northwest, going from Washington to all the way to Northern California, are going to see a lot of precipitation throughout the entire day. Now, looking at the broader picture of things, at 500 millibars or midway to troposphere, we have an upper level high pressure somewhere around the southwest, and this is what's causing this ridge. Something else I do want to point out is we do have a cutoff low also in the southwest, though it's relatively weak. Now, whenever we see a cutoff low, sometimes we can associate that with severe weather, but in this case, because it's relatively weak and entered into an area that's extremely dry, there's nothing really to make these storms. Now, what it is possibly doing is encouraging the downslope warming effect in the southwest, specifically around New Mexico and Texas. Because with low pressures being counterclockwise flow and it's adding a little bit of some wind speed aloft, it could make this area a lot more warmer than average for today and especially tomorrow. But in any case, this ridge overall is helping with that downslope warming effect. So anywhere in the Eastern Rockies, going from Alberta all the way down to Lake Mexico, we can definitely see these above higher than average temperatures. And with this help with this high pressure in the United States, but also the one in the Pacific, this has helped being the foundation and navigating the atmospheric river event that we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest. Because remember that high pressures are clockwise flow. And so going back to the US, at the surface, remember we had that high pressure coming all the way from Alberta, traveling down to the States, bringing a lot of that cold air. And now that high pressure is somewhere around the southeast. And so places like the plains and the Midwest, we're going to have the opposite effect, where now we're going to have some westerly to southwesterly flow, bringing in that much warmer air into this region. So compared to yesterday, it should feel a lot more warmer, and especially above freezing temperatures. So unlike last week's atmospheric river event, we had a trough going down throughout the US, and that brought in a lot of low pressure systems and brought in a lot of snow. But because we have this upper level high pressure and this ridge, it's going to be blocking all of that. So unfortunately for places like Canada, they're probably going to see a lot of low pressure systems and a lot of snow. But also because of that, in the northern part of the states like Montana and North Dakota, you guys are going to see a lot of effects of that, and especially wind. So for Montana, you guys are going to see today around 30 to 40 miles per hour winds sustained. And eventually for North Dakota, tomorrow morning and afternoon, you guys are going to have the same story.